Hi, my name is Juan, and welcome to The Couch, a podcast where real therapists talk about real things. Please remember that we are therapists, but we are not your therapists, and this podcast is intended for educational purposes only.
Do you ever find that you snap at your partner? Maybe you snap at each other. Welcome to another episode. And I want to share, I had a comment recently, so just for transparency, you may at times hear some background noise in the audio. I try to use my tech skills that may not be the most savvy. Could be car noise, just depending on where I'm recording. I appreciate that you're listening. Right? You're here for the content, and your kindness allows my audio quality to have some error to it. Today's episode is an exciting one for couples. Why you're snapping at each other. And in those layers, my friends, there's stress, right? Your response to stress. If you and your partner are snapping over who did the dishes, why didn't you fold the laundry? You didn't clean the bathroom the right way. You forgot to take out the trash. Right? If you are just arguing in conflict and snapping over sometimes what I hear from couples is we argue about the small things. If you notice that discussions, they just, it's like a road runner. They escalate. They move quickly from calmness to tension. And you find yourself in this space of arguing about things that don't actually feel, and listen to this, they don't feel important. Right? You step back from it, you're like, why were we even arguing about the dishes? I know you've done this. I've certainly done this. I'll have this situation with my wife, and then moments later, I may even laugh at myself and go, I know we talked about something, laundry, dishes, what were we arguing about? I hear couples say things like, we're fighting all the time. And they'll throw in there, I don't know why. We dig into it, they'll say things like, we used to handle things better. We'll dig into it, they'll say things like, I don't even recognize us. I don't recognize us. So today in this episode, we are going to spend some quality time, QT, you and me, talking about why couples snap. And if you're listening, maybe you are a person in a relationship. Why do you snap? I'll tell you, it starts because you're under stress. I'll tell you something else. It starts because of the nervous system. That's what's really happening. Your nervous system is activated, right? That's why you're responding to your stress, right? You're overloaded, my friend. One of the most confusing parts of relationship stress, at least to me is confusing, is how small things, right? Like this argument of the dishes, it's in the grand scheme of life, it's small, right? The dishes. And it suddenly becomes enormous, huge. I had this couple years back, they brought up this example to me. One of them forgot to unload the dishwasher. And then they told me all of a sudden their partner just snapped at them. Frustration. Right? And they told me, they were like, I get it, I forgot to do it. And then we all came to this word of, was it just out of proportion, the response? So then I asked them, I said, well, what's going on with your dishwasher? They looked at me like I was a little nuts. What do you mean, our dishwasher? I said, yeah, you both are tense, your dishwasher seems to just be out of whack. What's going on with it? Is there an issue with the dishwasher? And they're like, no, the dishwasher's fine, man. The issue was between each of them, right? Their stress and their response to that stress. The issue is this togetherness stress. Their nervous system, before even the dishes came up, we found out their nervous system was already overloaded. So by the time they got to the dishes, they really had just a little, tiny capacity left for the key items that we want to look at, right? We want to show up in a relationship with A, patience, B, curiosity, and lots of grace. Well, my friends, these two in the session today, they were depleted. They were tired. So by the time that they got to the dishwasher, their nervous system was already overloaded. And there you have it. Stress puts relationships into a survival mode, like Rambo in those movies. He's out there, he's surviving, right? But you wouldn't want Rambo in your office working, right, passing out documents to people with that same type of energy. It just wouldn't make sense. What happens is a relationship, when it experiences stress, it's not just a one time, it's a ongoing in the medical field, right? We use the word chronic, consistent. So it's chronic stress. This chronic stress, it moves a person to a survival mode, right? It's not a one-time stress, it's chronic, so now they're in this survival mode. And here's what the survival mode says, or how it shows itself. The body is alert, right? The brain looks for threats. So that's why I brought up Rambo, right? Rambo, his body is alert. His body is looking for threats. His brain is looking for threats. In those movies, you see that his emotions, they escalate quickly, don't they? And then empathy drops, right? He takes no survivors. An example of this outside of Rambo, in case you haven't watched it. You got these two people in a room. Partner hears feedback, not as information, right? What do they hear it as? They hear the other partner giving them some words, but it's not information they're hearing. They're hearing it as the big C, criticism. It could be another partner down the street in their house. They're engaged, they're having a conversation over something small. And instead of information, they hear and they respond with defensiveness. Right? You ask them, why are you defending yourself? Right? Why are you defending yourself? And they're not doing it as protection, but as indifference. Under stress, right? When I'm under stress, maybe when you're under stress, we, within our relationship, right, we're likely to stop feeling like partners, like a team. Give me a high five. No. We stop feeling that way. We see each other as a big barrier, a big obstacle, right? And here's the wild part of it. It's not the intention, right? My intention is not to see my wife as an obstacle. But when this stress is chronic, when it's ongoing, it impacts my nervous system. And I'm in this survival mode. And then now when, she's saying, hey, the dishes aren't getting done, I'm not hearing information. I am seeing that you're criticizing me. I'm becoming defensive. I'm protecting myself. So the nervous system has a role. When we have this high level of stress, this chronic stress, the nervous system, it struggles to go into like logic. One partner, for instance, raises their voice just a little, right? They go a couple of tones up there, and the other partner, what do? Right? They're not curious, they're not graceful. They react. Their body reacts immediately to that threat. And now think about this, my friend. What happens just naturally when you react to a threatening situation? I doubt your heart rate is chilled out. I doubt your muscles are all relaxed. I doubt your tone is like Yoda in a counseling session. No, your heart rate's up, pounding, boom, boom, boom. Muscles are tight, ready for action. Your tone is likely sharp and strong. And then your partner, they don't want to hear that shit, right? They want grace, compassion. But you're trying to figure out how to handle this stress, and your nervous system is like, hello, I'm awake. So what takes place is that communication becomes poor. The nervous system is seeing this situation is going down, and it responds to a perceived threat. Right? You go back to the dishwasher, and that's all it is, right? You're yelling and you're loud. And then if someone stops you and says, hey, are you safe right now? You're like, yeah, I'm safe. We're having an argument. That's the logic of it. Well, hold on. Then why is your heart rate accelerated? Why are your muscles tense? Why is your tone sharp? Because, oh, you know what? What's really happening is I'm perceiving threat. Why snapping often feels personal. You ever wonder that? And I think that's where we can get stuck as couples within our relationship. So when your partner snaps, right? When you snap, the other person, right, the one receiving that snap, they may think, why am I being treated like this? Why am I being treated this way? What's going on here? Why are they so upset with me? Why are they so angry with me? But most snapping isn't about the partner, right? And you're probably catching up to this. It's not about the dishwasher. It's about the internal, right? I mentioned that earlier, that internal overload. Like, I'm already tired. I'm already exhausted, depleted. So here you got a parent, they're exhausted, they're tired, they're working all day, got way too much stuff to do. And you guessed it, they're overstimulated. They're emotionally stretched. I'm stretched thin. You've heard that saying before. So when you're emotionally overloaded, when you're stretched thin, you're likely right to react sharply. But it is not because I don't love you. It's not because you don't love your partner. I'm depleted. And when you're depleted, you got nothing left. So what can we do, right? Let's not let this episode end here. Let's do something. First, we got to break the cycle. Name the stress, right? I'm in that situation with my wife, unloading the dishwasher. I jump in, I say, hey, we're both under a lot right now. I say we are both under a lot of stress right now. Why do I say something like that? Because I want to direct the blame not to me, not to her. I want to reduce that from taking place. I don't want either of us to blame each other. I want us to come together as a team and say, we're just under a lot. Second thing you could do, slow down that fight, that conflict. Why? Why? Because slowing down things, it helps us to see, to hear, to use our five senses. It helps us to increase that sense of internal safety. When you move too fast, well, here's a little tip. When you move too fast, that increase of speed, it actually causes things to be a little more reactive. And the last one I want to share with you, get to know your cycle. And if you're noticing that, some of these strategies, that they aren't sufficient, pull a third person in there, pull a teammate. Say, we need a counselor, we need a little bit of support. Let them see what's happening. And then slowly work at that one day at a time. If you're listening to this and it sounds like, hey, this is happening. This is happening to us. I relate to this. Okay, I'm there with you. I hope you found this episode helpful. Share it with a friend, with a couple across the street that could benefit from it. No, don't do that. They may not be too happy about it. A little humor there. I do hope you found it helpful. Make sure you laugh a lot. That's a beautiful medicine there. Share the episode. Leave a review. I'll see you in the next one.